Greetings, YouTube. The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Marvel Contest of Champions. And today, we are going to talk about our top 10 science champions of all time. And this is going to include the newest champions that are out. We've got a wide variety of champions here. We're going to talk about all those, and we're going to go through our honorable mentions. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment, and don't forget to hit that notification. First things off, I want to mention are 5, and I have 5 honorable mentions for this that didn't make our top 10 list, but they are definitely there. First off, we're going to talk about She-Hulk. So She-Hulk is not available as a 7-star as of right now. She's only available as a 6-star. Deathless She-Hulk is available as a 7-star. So She-Hulk is our first honorable mention. Does decent amount of damage, poison immune, a few other things. Second honorable mention here is Luke Cage. Also, he is available as a 7-star somewhere. We just have not gotten him yet. We have him as a 6-star. I'm currently sitting at him as a 6-star as a rank 3. The next one is Overseer. I do have Overseer as a 7-star. He is still a rank 1. He needs to be very max sig, but very good damage and pretty good utility. The fourth honorable mention, and I have him here as a 7-star rank 2, is Captain America Infinity War. And lastly, we've got him here as a 7-star, not Awaken, and that's Void. And those are my 5 honorable mentions before we get into the... Coming in at number 10, we've got Immortal Abomination, or Abomination Immortal as it is here. Now, a few things I do want to highlight about him is he is not immune to poison, but he takes 100% less damage from poison, and the recovery reduction from poison is 50% less effective, which means that poisons actually last longer on him, but because he takes 100% less damage from poisons, if you have the recoil masteries on, that means that that counts as a debuff. It'll appear as a debuff, and it will count towards the willpower part of that. So Immortal Abomination will actually heal based off of how much poison he's got and how much he's taking at the time. The other big thing is contact with an opponent will cause a chance for a poison to be dropped. It's very minimal, but as they drop, they get worse. And when he has afflicted 10 of these, it triggers an acid burn, which does 33,301 physical damage burst, and then acid burn does 30,354 over 5 seconds, plus a petrify, and all of his attacks are unblockable, which is awesome. Each poison on Abomination grants a physical resistance, which means, and you'll see these pop up as weakness buffs. While Abomination is poisoned each time he blocks an attack, the opponent is inflicted with a weakness debuff. So you can just block attacks, and he will basically not take any damage whatsoever at all. The big one is to get the special 2 on, so you get the Toxic Aura. The Toxic Aura inflicts 1 poison debuff every second, and it'll eventually get to 10. And then while you have that Toxic Aura going on, you want to hit the special 3. It immediately inflicts the acid burn, and then each stack of Toxic Aura will inflict an additional acid burn. So you just see them completely melt. So defensive-wise, super resistant to poison, and also because of the weaknesses and the physical resistance that he gets, great for just taking damage and just standing there and taking the blocked hits. And then massive amounts of damage otherwise. Stacks up lots of debuffs for the Despair. So if you're running Despair Mastery like I do, reverses healing very easily. All right, so let's take a look at some gameplay for him and his... All right, this is the team we're going to use for Immortal Abomination. Some of these characters on here are going to give us bonuses to a few of his things in his kit. Others are just going to give us a bonus to damage. Two of the important ones are the King Groot and the Red Skull. So we're going to start out with more poison charges, and our poison charges are going to, when they do poison, they're going to do more damage. So let's get into it. So we're going to work our way up to almost a special 3, and then we're going to hit the special 2. And he's got a poison. So poisons don't happen very often, and it's okay for this guy to hit into our block because they're not going to do any damage. Very little damage. And there's a chance that they're going to get a poison. So we're going to work all the way up to, yeah, see all those weaknesses? We're going to work all the way up to almost, there we go, okay, almost a special 3, and then we're going to go into the special. All right, so he is almost there. There he goes. Acid burn is on. And we can just hit into it. As long as the acid burn is on, we don't have to worry about him blocking. Okay, now we're going to go into a special 3, and that should take him out for the rest of the way. Yep. And he is gone. Melted in a minute 5. And 6. Coming in at number 9, we've got Human Torch. Still a great champion, not available as a 7-star as of right now, but we still use him for quite a bit of awesome content. Big thing I like to start out with is putting him in Nova form, and he gets his Nova Flame. So, first off, Nova Flame deals energy damage over time. It doesn't count as an Incinerate, and it removes perfect block chance, reduces block proficiency to 0, and inflicts a Power Sting. So every time you put a Nova Flame on, you put a Power Sting on. The Power Sting does 29/16, and then all of Human Torch's abilities treat Nova Flames as Incinerates. And big thing here, Incinerates, here they are, they do damage. These Incinerates deal 972. They remove perfect block chance. And just they're just great in the interim. With his temperature, if he's got 10 or more temperature on him, his attacks can't miss. If at 20, then the temperature cannot decrease for 6.5 seconds. And then the duration of all Human Torch's Incinerate effects increases by up to 4 seconds depending on his temperature. And lastly, he's immune to Incinerates, Cold Snaps, and Frostbites. And whenever Human Torch would be incinerated, he places a Smolder passive on himself. Smolder passives deal 0 damage, and this is basically his shtick, is these Smolders. So you want to get as many of these Smolders on as you can, because they will increase the amount of damage that the Incinerates do, and they'll increase the time in which they last. So that is a big thing with him. I like to either use a Special 2 or Special 3 in his rotation. It just depends. Now, he does not necessarily need to be awakened, but if he is awakened, then you can turn on that pre-fight, and then afterwards there's a certain % chance that every time he wins, he's going to be able to turn on that pre-fight. So, and then there's the Flame On Persistent Charge there. So, it's really important to get those Smolder charges in here, because they do so much and they allow these Incinerates to last longer, which does all this different stuff. So reduces regeneration rate, reduces block proficiency, all that stuff. So let's take a look at some gameplay for Human Torch, and just to see what his game rotation looks like. All right, this is the team we're going to be using for Human Torch. The thing gives us 2 synergies. One is a bump on the special one, and 2 is we start with some Smolder charges. Iceman is going to give us some burst damage, and then we're bringing in Medusa and Rogue so that we can get a bump to our power rate. And we want to work our way up. Basically, we're going to spam special 2s just in the interim with using Incinerates just to melt this guy. Now, I'm going to start... I always start every fight with this, Flame On. And then as I win fights, you get a chance of getting it back. His Awakened ability is not the best. So we're going to go ahead and hit him with this. There's the Incinerates and the Power Sting. And we're going to hit... You can do 3s or 4s. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to get back up to max. This guy does not want to go forward. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And let's hit him with a special 2. And that's going to stun him. And then we can go back up to max. We can hit him again. 1, 2, 3. We'll hit him with our 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And we'll hit him with a special 2 again. And he's gone. Okay. So, and he's not the fastest in the world, but he does do a lot of damage over time. So that was 52 seconds. That was pretty fast. 47 hits. Coming in at number 8, we have Morbius. I currently have him as a Awakened rank 3 7-star at a SIG level of 60. Big things to take away from this guy is his Psionic Glide. So you just dash forward when the little icon is up, and you'll see the icon, and these become basically unblockable, and you gain a massive attack rating. Psionic Glide's medium attacks also inflict a bleed debuff, and this is really important to understand because you want to get as many bleeds on as you can. And then after that, you got a Fervor for 10 seconds, which increases ability accuracy of the outgoing damaging effects, which is the bleeds. So there's a 20% chance for a basic attack to inflict a bleed, which deals a little bit of damage. We don't really care about that. But if we've got the Fervor on, we've got a higher percent chance of getting that bleed effect. Then each damaging debuff on the opponent lowers their regeneration rate. So if it's at 10, it's minus 100. And their ability power rate, which is the amount of power that they gain per hit. Morbius does not benefit from the Despair Mastery. Instead, while the opponent is suffering from any damaging debuff, like a bleed, their regeneration and ability rates are lowered for each rank that I have invested in the Despair Mastery. And I use the Despair Mastery a lot. So the big thing is when you get 10 damaging debuffs, and they say damaging debuffs here because he's got something in his Awakened ability that we're going to look at. You get a 25% Petrify, and the Petrify reduces ability rate and regeneration rate. So this guy's really good at shutting regeneration off. And the big thing with that and the rotation that you do is once you get 10 damaging debuffs, bleeds, or degens, then you're going to get that Petrify. Once you get the Petrify, you hit this. So if the opponent is petrified, the second hit becomes a guaranteed crit, consuming all damaging debuffs on the opponent and increasing the attack rating by 2358 for each debuff consumed. This guy, and we'll see this in the gameplay, will do around 200,000 points of damage with that. And then passively regenerate 15% of damage dealt by the second hit up to 10%. So he does get a little bit of regen. Now the big thing with his Awakened ability is if they're immune to bleeds, there's a chance that he will inflict a Rupture instead. I'm sorry, I said a degen, I meant a Rupture, dealing physical damage. Now, that is a damage over time debuff, which means it counts towards that Petrify. When taking direct damage from users, gain a non-stacking Undying passive, while Undying is active, instantly regenerate 16.5% of all direct damage. So, not so great against skilled champions, but against Mystic champions, he is awesome, and this is the big thing is 10 bleeds or ruptures, and then the Petrify, and then the special 2. All right, let's take a look at some gameplay and see what his rotations look like. All right, this is the team we've got here for Morbius. We've got 2 of our lethal protectors to give us a bump to our crit rating. We've got Werewolf by Night to increase this Torment, which increases the duration of all incoming damaging debuffs. We've got a blade, which gives us bleeds on well-timed blocks. And that's basically it. Everything is about the bleed, and everything is about getting bleeds and getting the bleeds to stay. So we're going to come in, we're going to build up to the 10 bleeds to get our Petrify, and we're going to be using his like Ghost Touch effect. And then we're going to hit the special 2, and you'll see we'll do like 200,000 points of damage or something ridiculous like that. All right, here we go. So we're coming in, we've already got 2 bleeds. And then we hit there's our Psionic Glide. And we're up to 6 right now. 7, 8, 9. We're going to go back. There we go. And we are at, oh, wow, look at that. All right, let's hit this. There we go. Okay, here we go. 181. And we've got our... Going to go for 1 more here. And there's our Psionic Glide, which gets us our bleeds. We're only at 3, 5, 6, 8, and we got tagged. And we're at the special 3 now, so let's see what this does here. And we're at 11. And he is gone. Okay. So you could see there, sometimes the RNG is not on your side like we saw there. But that was a minute 10:59 hit. Coming in at number 7 is Silk. I have Silk as a Awakened rank 3 7-star, SIG level 40. Now the big things to remember about Silk is, 1, that Silk's heightened agility keeps her 1 step ahead of danger. Incoming ruptures and slows suffer a 90% duration. She is one of the only champions in the game that has some kind of resistance against ruptures. Big thing. So that is a really big defensive ability. And then while dodging back, Silk cannot be struck by attacks. She does not benefit from the Dex Mastery, but each rank grants a bonus to crit rating. So she does have an Evade, which has a cooldown. So she has a 100% chance to evade special attacks, and then after triggering her when Silk is critically hit, the effect goes on cooldown for 25 seconds. So the first special attack comes out, it's just not going to hit, this one is pretty good for champions like an Onslaught, where it's really hard to dodge that particular first special one that he throws out. All attacks inflict a physical vulnerability, which is good if you've got Despair, because that will turn on and it will actually reverse the regeneration rate. And they are refreshed when the opponent is struck. So you see the timer will start going. While charging a heavy, if the opponent is within striking distance and suffering from any of the physical vulnerabilities, they get stunned. This is a big one because it allows you to hit them. It allows you to hit them a bunch of times to where you're going to use a special. You charge the heavy, all of a sudden they're stunned, and then you can flip right into your special attack. The first hit grants a Fury, so you have to make sure you hit them with the first hit of that heavy attack. And then pretty much after that, the rotation is going to be to get up to a special 2, to hit them with that first hit of the heavy. So you charge the heavy, they get stunned, you hit them the first time, you get the Fury, and then you hit the special 2, which does a Sunder. So reduces crit resistance to 0 and prevents it from increasing. And then the final hit does a burst of a lot of damage. And it's going to do more than that because of the Fury that we're putting on from the heavy. That is going to cause somewhere around 100,000 points just on the back end of that special 2. So striking the opponent with a heavy attack or while their back is against the wall inflicts a slow. So this is part of her signature ability. And then while the slow is active during Silk's attack, the opponent suffers a minus Right now it's a minus 37% to regenerate, so she's really good at reversing regens with the physical vulnerabilities and then with this particular signature ability. Does she need to have this? No, not really. It does help quite a bit, but, you know, it is there. All right, let's take a look at some gameplay for Silk just to see how her rotation goes. All right, this is the team we've got for Silk. We're bringing in Spider-Man, so Special 2 will inflict webbing, and basically the webbing falls off slowly, and it gives us stacks of personal burst damage. We're going to bring in our guy here, Weapon X, for a little bit of armor rating. We're bringing in Shang-Chi so we can get a crit rating bump, and then we're bringing in Black Cat so we can get that Spectre, which is going to lower regeneration. This is not really going to be a problem with this fight because this is against Realm of Legends Winter Soldier, but, you know, you never know. And now we're going to work up to a Special 2, and then we're going to heavy and then cancel into... We're going to heavy, hit with the first hit of the heavy, and then we're going to go into a Special 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then double. And we basically want to do that. So, and you can see that Spectre popping up. And almost there. All right, there we go. We got it. And that was about 100,000 points of damage. And she's got this evade on her initial foray from an opponent's special attack. So you can see it's in cooldown right now. And every time I hit, it goes back. So now we're back there again. And I can hit him with that once, and it'll stun him. And he's gone. Okay, there it goes. And that last hit was 100,000 on the last part of that. And that was a minute 3, 65 hits. Coming in at number 6 is Titania. I currently have Titania as a rank 3, 7-star awakened at a SIG level of 64 right now. So some of the big things to understand about Titania is she's immune to buff. So she's one of the few champions that is immune to buff. She does have some physical resistance. She has this Haymaker mechanic, and everything in her kit works off this Haymaker mechanic. And the Haymaker, when it happens, so you perform a dash, a second medium, or you charge a heavy, she goes unblockable, unstoppable, and indestructible for 4 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. So this is good when your opponent throws a Special 3. If you've got this turned on, Special 3 won't do anything at all. So that is one of the times where you want to kind of keep this in reserve for that. While the Haymaker is going on, each hit deals a burst of 283 physical damage for each debuff on the opponent. And it's important to understand that because of how the Special 3 works. Her rotation is basically going to be get into the Haymaker, throw a heavy, cancel it before it hits, and then go into the Special 3. So she's got adding insult to energy. Whenever the opponent is inflicted with the debuff, Titania gains a Fury passive, so that's going to cause the burst damage to go way up. And all of Titania's debuffs can be inflicted through blocks. So she inflicts a 5% suppression on all light attacks, which is going to reduce combat power rate. And then the first hit of a heavy inflicts a stagger, which is going to nullify buffs. So as long as they got a stagger on, it'll nullify the next buff that happens. So if the first hit lands while Haymaker's effects are active, the final hit inflicts an extra stack of Titania's active personal debuffs. So you got to hit him first. It's a 2-hit heavy attack. You hit him once, and then you go into the Special 3 because the Special 3 inflicts a fatigue, exhaustion, decelerate, disorient, falter, stifle, wither, petrify, cowardice, intimidate. If you hit them, if the first hit lands while Haymaker's effects are active, then the final hit is going to do all this stuff twice. And that's a big thing. And then immediately activate Haymaker with a 50% duration. So you just want to cancel into the heavy and do all this stuff, and then you're going to hit the heavy, hit the first hit, and then go right into the special 3. And then after that, because you're going to be indestructible, unstoppable, unblockable, you want to do heavy attacks to get this burst damage to come in, because the heavy attacks are going to do a lot. Now with her awakened ability, whenever she inflicts a stackable personal debuff, right now she has a 16% chance to inflict it twice. So that needs to be really high. We're eventually going to get her to 200. And then when she fights large and extra large opponents, her fury potencies go up. Right now it's only 16%. So she doesn't necessarily need to be awakened. It does help a lot, and she needs to be max sig as much as possible. All right, let's take a look at some gameplay for Titania and see how her rotation works. All right, here's the team we're going to be using for Titania. We're bringing in a She-Hulk because we get some Fury passives, and then our Fury effects increase in duration. We're going to be bringing in Hyperion. That is going to increase potency of Furies. We are going to be bringing in a Storm, which is going to give us a bump to our crit rating, and we're going to be bringing in the Champion, which means intercepting the opponent will pause our Furies and reduces Haymaker's cooldown. And we're not going to use that too much, but if it does, that's a big thing, because her whole kit is based off of the Haymaker. Now, we're going to try and get to a special 3 while the Haymaker is active, and then you want to heavy and cancel into the special 3 while the Haymaker is going. We're going to try to do that. It's not as easy as you think to do. Every time we hit, we reduce the Haymaker down more. All right, this is going to get us there. And then we cancel in, and we just go. And that's going to double all the debuffs that are put on this guy. Oh. Really, dude? And you can see we're doing a ton of damage to him. And he's gone. Very easy. And that was 57 seconds, 51 hit. Coming in at number 5, we've got the Hulk. And this is the reworked Hulk that we got earlier this year. Great champion. I have him as a rank 3 awakened. 7-star. He is at Sig 80 right now. He's one of my first rank 3s. Actually, this guy got a buff sometime in late 2023. So he was one of my first ones. Great champion, a lot of utility. So let's take a look. He has, on defense, he's immune to poison. He gains 90% degeneration resistance. So again, this is one of these champions, one of the few that is resistant to degeneration. Not a lot of champions can reduce or are immune to degeneration. And he gets a attack rating based on missing health. So the more health, he gets more attack. Stunned opponents suffer a -20 combat power rate, and then that's doubled when he is in Gamma Rage. Now, he gets these Furies. So Hulk's Furies grant a little bit of an attack rating. They last for 2 seconds and expire one at a time during Gamma Rage. When striking an opponent, there is a 50 to 80% chance to gain a Fury passive based off of missing health. When struck, there's a 40 to 70% chance to gain one of these. And then when struck, if the Hulk loses more than 10% of his max health, he gains 5. So this is his big shtick, are these Furies. When he has 15 or more of these personal Fury passives, he enters Gamma Rage. So strike an opponent with a heavy while Hulk has 5 or more personal furies, inflicts a stun for 2 seconds, and then he enters Gamma Rage. You have to be careful with the heavy that you don't enter Gamma Rage prematurely. Now, while he is in Gamma Rage, if Hulk would gain a Fury passive, he instead inflicts a physical vulnerability. So he's in Gamma Rage, he's got 15 of these Furies, and now he's putting physical vulnerabilities on the opponent, and he can put up to 20 stacks on. While in Gamma Rage, he pauses all trauma and physical vulnerability debuffs on the opponent, and then Gamma Rage ends when he has no personal Fury passives, and then it goes into cooldown. So remember, they go into cooldown every 2 seconds. So this will last for about 30 seconds. Now, what you want to do is you want to get to a Gamma Rage and then go to your special 3. If Gamma Rage is active, you inflict a 10,400 physical vulnerability debuff for 3 seconds. And then once you go into that, you get the physical vulnerability, and then you want to go into basically special 2 because it inflicts a trauma. So you go to 15 Fury charges, hit the special 3 to go into Gamma Rage, you get the physical vulnerability, and you'll see that his damage goes up tremendously, and then you work up to a special 2, which does a ton of damage. Now, with his Awakened ability, when he enters Gamma Rage or strikes an opponent with a heavy attack while it's active, he gains an Unstoppable. That's okay. It lasts for a little while. And then he gains some physical resistance and crit resistance while Unstoppable, so that's only in that little small window. So does he need to be Awakened? No. Does it help? A little bit, but not really. So he is okay, Awakened. But I have him Awakened. He is amazing. Great utility. A lot of damage. A lot of people will spam this special 1 for the stun. So the final hit inflicts a stun for 4 seconds. Duration is increased by 100% while in Gamma Rage. Each time this stun is inflicted, its duration is reduced by 60 seconds or 60% until the next time he enters Gamma Rage. So it is a long, long stun. All right, so let's take a look at some gameplay for the Hulk to see his rotations and how they work. All right, this is the team we're going to be using for Hulk. And all of the synergies that I have with Hulk are synergies that don't come from his kit. They come from other champions' kits. So the first one we're going to be doing is this She-Hulk one where we get plus 20% to personal furies, which is Agents of Smash. And then we're going to be going for Tied to Go. No, it's Beach Bods. And each member of the Synergy team increases the team's attack rating by 8%. So we're going to get an 8% bump there. With Titania, we're going to get Do You Even Lift, and we're going to increase those Furies even more. And then finally, we're going to be going with Hercules, which gives us a plus 15% to Fury potency. So a lot of Fury stuff. Hulk gets a lot of Furies. Again, we're going to go into Gamma Rage, and then we're going to pop a special 3, and then we're just going to destroy him after that. So we want to get 15 charges, Gamma charges, and that will put us into Gamma Rage. And you can see this damage start going up as we get more Furies. Once we hit 15, we'll go into Gamma Rage. So he says Hulk is starting to get angry. We're almost there. All right, we're there, but now we want to get into a special 3. Okay, now we can do it. And he's already at below 50%. Now he's just gonna be blasted. Yeah, look at that. Once you get that Gamma Rage going and you do it while you're in a special 3, you just deal out massive amounts of damage. Okay, that was 44 seconds, 45 hits. Coming in at number 4 is Count Nefaria. Now, I have this champion as a rank 3 7-star Awaken, and he is currently at 113 signature ability level, I am actually actively adding signature levels on him because he does get quite a bit better when he is awakened. And he is at max sig. So always active on him. This guy's got so much utility, and that's why people really like him a lot. And he can dish out a lot of damage. So always active. His body is composed of ionic energy. It grants him immunity to power steal and bleed effects. And he has a 90% shock and incinerate resistance. That's all kinds of resistances and immunities all day long. So those are awesome. So whenever, the next one is this energy buildup. So whenever the opponent fills a bar of power, they gain 15 stored energy for every 1% of the opponent's max health or power they would gain from a buff or passive. They gain 2 stored energy. Every 10 stored energy is automatically converted into indefinite energy buildup debuff. Okay, so he's got this, and this is all just kind of generic stuff that builds into the rest of his kit. So his kit's pretty long and it looks pretty complicated, but it's not as complicated as you think. So he's got this well-timed block evade. So when Count Nefaria would block a basic attack or when the final hit of a special attack with or just after a well-timed block, he evades. This evade has a cooldown and it does some damage and it inflicts 2 energy buildups. So that's up here. And that is it's the converted into that last bullet into indefinite energy buildup debuff. So if the opponent's special attack is punished after evading it, inflict a energy vulnerability. And remember, he does almost all energy damage. So the big thing he's got are these ionic charges. This is his big shtick. So you gain 10 when you do a well-timed block. That's pretty much the only way of getting these. The other way is to do special ones, and we'll talk about that when we get to there. You lose 20 if he would be inflicted with a bleed effect while fighting a non-mystic champion. And these grant attack rating. So his attack goes up whenever he has ionic charges. Ionic charges grant up to 55-31 attack rating, maxing out at 100. They also grant physical and energy resistance and 90% degeneration resistance. Again, here's another champ that has degeneration resistance. Few champs have this. Now, if he gets 100 of these charges, he goes into ionic overcharge for 17 seconds, and it's paused during his special attacks. All of his attacks are non-contact and deal energy damage instead of physical damage. Additionally, the regen rate and ability power rate are reduced by 90%. So they're not gaining any power, and they're not regenerating. And when they gain ability power, he gains 60% of the power denied this way. Okay, so whenever he hits a special attack, any hit of the special attack deals burst of energy damage. If it is the first or second hit after Nefaria's counter attack. So if you counter attack, you want to immediately throw a special attack. And the big thing here is the special one. The final 4 hits each devour 2 energy buildups. This can trigger through the block and is unaffected by ability accuracy. Each devoured energy buildup grants ionic charges. So remember this first part here where we're putting these energy buildups on. We're now going to consume those with our special one, and we're going to get ionic charges. It also devours 2% of missing health and 9% of a bar of power. So once we've gotten over 100 and we go into ionic overcharge, we want to do a special 2. So we get a Fury per 10 ionic charges. Each lasts for 16 seconds. The final hit inflicts an incinerate, dealing energy damage. And against mystics, it's a plasma instead, which is important because some can be resistant or immune to incinerate. So you want to have ionic overcharge going, and you want to hit that special 2. But to get there, we're going to have to spam special 1 a little bit. And finally, with the special 3, you're going to gain 50 ionic charges, and then you're going to immediately activate ionic overcharge, and you pause it for 10 seconds. So the special 3 is not as important as some of the other stuff. So during that overcharge, you passively regenerate health denied to the opponent due to any regeneration. Each tick of this healing cannot exceed a certain amount. When the opponent gains a bar of power from a passive or a buff instantly gain 50 ionic charges. So this is really important. This is massive against these power gain champions that are either cosmic or mystic. So when the opponent gains 31% of a bar of power from a passive or buff within 5 seconds, so these are things like champions like Hyperion, who has a power gain, or Thor Ragnarok, who also has a power gain shtick, or champions that steal power. So anytime they gain any kind of power. This also triggers when they gain any health for any reason within a half a second. So he denies a lot of folks' health. So he'll get these ionic charges, and you basically can just get these over and over and over again. So he's really good against these type of champions that are mystics that gain power, or particularly things like mutants that will regenerate. So let's take a look at some gameplay for him, and let's take a look at his rotations. All right, this is the team we're going to be using for Count Nefaria, and we're going to start with a Iron Man. So with the Iron Man, we're going to, whenever we get an energy buildup, we also inflict a 15% decelerate. So if we get 6 or 7 of those, that means that they will no longer be able to do like unblockables and unstoppables and evades. We're going to be putting in a Baron Zemo. We start out with Ionic Overcharge for 50% of its normal duration, and then we don't lose those, which is nice. We're going to be using a Teenage Mutant Negasonic Warhead, and if we start the fight with less, we're going to get a regen. That's not really going to come in here. I actually think I'm going to replace her with a Thor so we get more of a crit rating. And we want to get these energy buildups, and we get those from well-timed blocks, essentially. Gain 10 ionic charges when well-timed block. We lose 20. So if we would be inflicted with a bleed, and they grant us an attack rating, and we're going to go into Ionic Overcharge, and then we're going to pop a special 2. So let's get into it. Really, I think what we want to do with this one is we want to go to a special 3, which gives us 50. It activates Ionic Overcharge, and then we can go into a special 2. Really, the rotation is just dependent on getting those ionic charges and then going into an Ionic Overcharge and then hitting the special 2, because that's where you do all your damage. All right. So here we are. And you get ionic charges if you are hitting special 1s as well. So there's 10. And we're in overcharge right now. And I didn't get it. I'm trying to do the Colossus thing here. There we go. We got some there. Okay, we're going to hit the special 1. And that just put me into Ionic Overcharge. And we're going to hit it again to make it go even more. All right, now we're going to work our way up to and I got hit. We're going to work, and I lost 20 because of a bleed. We're going to work our way up to a special. Oh, now we're back to 48. All right, that didn't work out. Okay, now we're at 96. There we go. All right, here we go. And he is got some incinerates on him. So that's where we go. So a minute 29, 85 hits. Not my best. We lost our ionic charges, but you saw how much damage that special 2 did with that. And he doesn't take bleed damage, but he does lose ionic charges when he does. So you got to see that. All right, that is what we got. Coming in at number 3 is the Scorpion, who is not available as a 7-star as of yet. So I have him as a rank 5 awakened 6-star who is max signature level at level 200. So let's take a look at him. The big thing with him is his pre-fight ability and the sting ability that he has. So the rest of it all is just kind of there. So bottom line is he has these pre-fight sting debuffs, and he inflicts them each time he hits a medium attack. So you always want to end with a medium. And the default is to do a poison, but in the pre-fight you can choose poison, shock, or rupture. On fight entry, Scorpion gains immunity to the damage over time effect that he did not select with his pre-fight. So if you select rupture, he is immune to shock and poison, which is massive. There's so many champs that do poison and shock damage. That's massive. He is also one of the few champions that can be immune to ruptures. So if you pick poison or shock, he will be immune to ruptures as well. And the big thing is, if the opponent triggers a special attack while suffering from his personal sting debuffs, inflict a burst of 2235 sting debuff damage per sting. So if I have 2, I'm going to do about 4,500 damage. Now this gets ridiculous. He's got an evade mechanic, which is okay. It doesn't show up that much. He does have torment charges, which he can put on, which allow his stings to last longer. So torment debuffs last for 10 seconds, but pause during specials. So landing a heavy converts all charges into torment debuffs. And like I said, the torments increase the duration of each damage over time, which is important to keep those particular stings on. Now, the special one, the big thing about the special one is it inflicts a bunch of stings. The special 2, which is what I like to use, all sting debuffs are paused and refreshed. Finally, inflict 2 bursts of sting debuff damage per sting buff on the opponent and inflict a petrify of 40%, which means their ability power rate goes down and their regen goes down. This petrify can be inflicted through a block, and the potency of sting debuff bursts are increased by 10% for each stack of torment converted during this special. So if you got like 2 stacks of torment on and 10 sting debuffs, and you hit this, they're going to get hit with 20 sting debuff damage, and then this petrify, and it's just going to get nasty. Finally, the special 3, you can inflict a stun, and if you hold your heavy after this, then you can get furies, essentially. So the awakened ability here is while the opponent is inflicted with a taunt, which you get from special 1, then Scorpion can be unblockable special attacks. Scorpion sense is consumed when the special attack is finished. And then if the opponent is inflicted with a petrify, and this is why I have him at max sig, and they attempt to heal, Scorpion passively regenerates 100% of the health denied to them due to any regeneration reduction. So each tick of this healing cannot exceed 110. So he's really good against regeneration opponents because of the special 2, which inflicts this petrify for 20 seconds first. So 20 seconds, we're going to be essentially regenerating. So let's take a look at some of Scorpion's gameplay and take a look at his rotations. All right, here is the team that we are going to be using for Scorpion. And we're going to be putting out a Iceman because the final hit of the special 2, and we're going to be trying to spam special 2, inflicts a stun debuff on the opponent. And then we've got Spider-Ham, so we've got a 25% chance to inflict sting debuffs on light attacks, which is great because that increases our sting effects. We're going to be putting in a Venom. Well, we gain a Fury passive for each sting debuff on the opponent. And then finally, we're going to be putting a Spider-Man in to increase that crit rating. And Scorpion's still great. He isn't available as a 7-star, but he is still awesome as a 6-star. He is one of my go-to champs for a lot of different content. And because of this right here, so he is now immune to shocks and bleeds. And we're going to be doing ruptures. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to hit him with that. So that causes the duration of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It causes the duration of our stings to last longer, and we're going to now, and they're all going to blow up. Boom, look at that. And he's stunned. And there's, we're going to hit him with this. He's up to 20 of those, and he just went down. See that? He just stung himself out. That was wicked fast. Because we got so many of those on there. That was 35 seconds, 37 hits. Coming in at number 2, we've got Spider-Ham. I have him as a Awakened rank 3 7-star who is at a SIG level 80. And let's take a look at his kit a little bit. He just passively has physical resistance for some reason. He gets these nonsense charges, so they will start to increase as the opponent gets energy, increasing faster for each bar of power that our opponent has. So every stack reduces degeneration. So again, this is another one of these champions that reduces degeneration. Very rare, doesn't happen a lot, but as he gets nonsense charges, he will reduce degeneration potency and passively reduces damage taken by the opponent's special attack. So special attacks go down. While nonsense is at 6 or more, Spider-Ham has a 35% chance to evade. I would not ever rely on that. It's just a flat 35%. It doesn't happen that often. When he gets to 10, he doesn't gain any more for 6.5 seconds, after which it's reset to 0. Spider Nonsense resets to 3 against Mystic Champions. So this is one of the reasons why he's good against Mystics, because this goes down. And the big one with this is it passively reduces damage taken during the opponent's special attack by 5% for each stack. So if we have 9 stacks, it's going to reduce damage from a special attack by 45%. If you want to get lower in your nonsense charges so they keep going back up, you use a heavy to remove them. This is the big one. Here's his shtick. 50% chance to place a Porker Popper on an opponent when you do a medium attack, which is the same thing as a Power Sting. This chance is increased by a flat 25% to 75% if the opponent is stunned, or if Spider-Ham is unblockable, which is in the next set of bullet points. Dash back and hold block, and I use this a lot. So if you dash back, you get a 100% chance to evade, and this evade will trigger even while blocking. So you dash back, there's a little icon that's got a guy running, it'll turn green, your opponent will come at you. When they do, you will immediately evade them. When the evade triggers, it goes into cooldown. So when you evade, you become unblockable for 1.2 seconds. So you can back up again and then move forward on the opponent immediately, and they can't block you. And because of that, you will put a Porker Popper on them. Okay, so here's the Porker Poppers. They're triggered. There's an 8.5% chance per Spider Nonsense for it to be replaced with a new Porker Popper, that each lasting 9 seconds. So the more of those nonsense charges you have, the greater this chance is. Porker Poppers deal 5,071 damage, additional passive direct damage when they trigger. The additional damage is increased by 60% for each bar of power the opponent had when they triggered. So special 1s do less damage than a special 2. I like to build up and eventually hit with a special 2 because these will stick. And primarily because of his, because of the nonsense charges and because of his signature ability. So they will come back in and they'll just kind of sit there and they can re-trigger. And eventually I like to get him up to the special attack 3. So if the opponent has triggered fewer than 15, you place 4. If the opponent has triggered 15 or more, in this fight, Place a Porker Popper on them. For every Porker Popper that was triggered, this can only happen once per fight, maximum of 25. And then each Porker Popper placed by this attack lasts for 10 seconds and does extra damage. So this can do a ton of damage. All right, let's take a look at some gameplay for Spider-Ham and see how his rotation works. All right, this is the team that we've got for Spider-Ham. We're going to be bringing out a Miles Morales. So Spider's Nonsense resets to +3 more than it would normally. So that's if we use a heavy attack. Then we're bringing in a Mojo. So whenever an opponent's special attack triggers at least 10 Porker Poppers, the special attack damage reduction from Spider Nonsense is 100% stronger. We're going to be bringing in a Gwenpool because the Porker Poppers last longer. And then finally we're going to be bringing in a Spider-Man just for a little bit of extra defense. So the objective with this is to put on as many Porker Poppers as we can and then blow them up with a special 3 at the end. You want to have I think it's 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to sit back here and watch this. He's going to come at me because and then we're going to go forward. And there we go. We got him. And he popped. And we're going to hit him with this to get him a whole bunch. So he's got 7 now. And so now I reduce the nonsense. And he's just going to probably just go. Yeah, he's going to sting himself out. So that was 50 seconds, 36 hits. Coming in at number 1, we have Photon. I have a rank 3 Awakened 7-star Photon. She is also one of my first 7-star rank 3s that I got. We currently have her at a SIG level of 160. So let's take a look at her kit. She's Living Energy. So when stunned, she loses control over solid form and gains a 100% untouchable. This has saved me so many times. 2.5 seconds. So you get, she gets parried and stupefied, and then she goes untouchable, so you don't get whacked a bunch of times. She's immune to bleed and power steal effects, which is great. And she can trigger the parry mastery against non-contact attacks, and all of her attacks deal energy damage. So that's actually important against things like Professor X or against opponents like Onslaught, who does a lot of non-contact attacks. Whenever the opponent is inflicted with a debuff, Photon also inflicts a non-stacking 80% Petrify, which means that their regeneration rate and ability power rate is gone. Now, this is not very long. It's only for half a second, but they stack up, and this will immediately start reversing all of their healing. If the opponent has the willpower mastery active, it is removed. So no healing. There is no healing that is going to happen if you are using Photon. Photon's medium attacks cannot miss, so just do medium, and you'll be good. Those against things like Spider Supreme, who's got that phasing attack. Both champions' first medium inflict a 10% suppression, so combat power rate, there's that again, plus that Petrify. And so that's the first medium attack. The first and third light attack inflict an energy vulnerability. And the first hit of either champion's heavy inflicts a Sunder, which lasts for a long time. And the Sunder reduces crit resistance to 0, which is great. So you want to get that on as soon as possible so you can just start doing massive crits. She gets electromagnetic charges. You get +1 charge when you inflict a debuff or when the opponent activates a special attack. 4 charges when the opponent misses. That is happening up here if she gets stunned. And she is very hard to deal with because you can't parry her because of that. So in special attacks, they cannot be avoided with the Dex Mastery. And electromagnetic charges pause during the opponent's special attacks and for 3 seconds when Photon punishes an opponent's special attack. And that's important because she goes into a super mode when she's got a certain number of electromagnetic charges. So, while at 10 charges or more, dodging back and holding the block for 1.2 seconds or being knocked down pushes Photon into her pure light form, which gives her 5 furies, and then they start dropping off. So you want to get these as high as you can. Once she gets to 25, it doesn't matter. She will go ahead and start dropping them off. She'll go into that mode and then start dropping them off. Special 1 does an overload debuff for 8 seconds, so causes hits to deal an initial burst of damage, which is nice. And if she's in pure light form, that is, if she's hit that max of electromagnetic charges, the final hit is unblockable. I like to use this special 2. It inflicts a taunt, so reduces attack rating and increases chance of a special attack by 70%. And if she's in pure light form, this is unblockable. And the electromagnetic charges are paused for the duration of the special. And she gains a 100% untouchable passive for 3 seconds. And that means incoming attacks have a mischance for 3 seconds, which is great. Then there is special attack 3. Max stacks of electromagnetic charges increase by 5 until the end of the fight. And if at or above 20 charges, gain a non-stacking regenerating 5,060 over 8 seconds. So I like to get up to max, pop this special 3, then go to a special 2, and by then the fight's usually over with. Okay, for her awakened ability, Photon's improved control over electromagnetic spectrum grants her immunity to all neutralize effects. Great for Mystic Champs again. For every debuffing the opponent, their block proficiency is reduced by X amount. That's great. And Photon's block proficiency is increased. And Photon has right now a 58% chance to inflict one of her personal energy vulnerability debuffs on the opponent when struck by or blocking a light attack. So the big one I like here is that second bullet right there. All right, let's take a look at some of Photon's gameplay and see how her rotation works. All right, this is the team we're going to be using for Photon. First off, we're going to bring in a She-Hulk. So it gets physical resistance per debuff on the opponent. That's a lot because she puts a lot of debuffs on. Then we're going to be bringing in Elsa Bloodstone. So unblockable hits deal 4% of attack as a burst. Direct damage for each personal debuff on the opponent. That's a lot. Then we're going to be bringing in a Captain Movie Marvel. And we're going to pause electromagnetic charges for an additional 3 seconds. And we're going to be bringing in a Mr. Negative, which reduces the potency of incoming degen. That's not really going to help us so much because we're not getting any degen. But what we want to do here is we want to get to our maximum 25 photon charges, and then we want to hit the special 3. Or special 2. One of the two. So every time we hit, we're basically going up a photon charge. And when we get to 25... we're going to hit a heavy now because that puts an extra debuff on for a fairly long time. And we want to go into the special 3 when we have 20 or more of these charges. Because we get a regen at the end of that. Alright, here we go. So we're in like Super Captain Marvel mode. And see, I got a regen now that did like no damage. And this lasts a while. And you can see how much damage we're doing per hit. And that regen's over with now. And we get a whole bunch of... and there it goes. We get a whole bunch of Furies too. That's the other thing. So that's it. Tons of debuffs. Tons of debuff utility. Doesn't take bleeds. Just so awesome. So awesome. And that is my #1 champ. Minute 7, 64 hits.